Oh boy, so much to talk about here. So much to talk about in the recent episode of Dragon Ball Super. Hi guys, this is Roka Soka Raw episode 13, the final fight between Trunks and Zamasu, and really, the entire episode. Oh boy, where to begin? Well, for starters, I noticed that this episode is probably the most BS episode ever in terms of just all the stuff that goes on. There's so many contrivances. I mean, it's just to the point where it's almost as if they're like, you know, just put it in there, and people are like, and people might be like, but this doesn't make sense, and they'll be like, oh no, just put it in there, like we don't care. I mean, seriously, this episode is the most contrived episode of Dragon Ball I've ever seen, like ever, especially in the canon. And there have been many contrived things in this arc alone, but this definitely tops it. So one thing I noticed was that when Vegitto showed up, he was challenged by Zamasu, which is the first time that it's happened in canon. You know, obviously Vegito only fought one other character, and that was Super Buu. And obviously Super Buu wasn't really much of a match for him at all, at least up until Super Buu did that, dimensional barrier thing. That's when Vegito actually had to try, but other than that, he was basically just toying with Buu. However, this is the first time that Vegito actually had to try. First off, he had to go into full power pretty much. And then second, Zamasu just wasn't a pushover. Because if he was, then obviously he would have beaten Zamasu and not Trunks. But I'll get to Trunks later. I'm sure many of you know a lot of the things I'm going to say on that. But another thing I noticed is that the fight between Zamasu and Vegito was extremely fast-paced. I mean, seriously, if you were watching carefully, you may have noticed that, I don't know, at least to me, it seemed like they sped it up or something. Like, they had the regular footage and then they just sped it up using, Windows Movie Maker or something. Like, I don't know, just, that's literally what it felt like to me. It was like, are they speeding this up? I don't know. But, then we have the fight between Trunks and Zamasu, and man, where do I begin? First off, Trunks gets his sword and, puts his aura into it, which, whatever, that's fine. But then he forms a spirit bomb, or Genki Dama, for those who want to use a Japanese term. So he uses the Genki Dama, which we have no idea where he learned this from. And apparently he's able to gather the ki from just the surrounding people, the survivors, the Goku, Vegeta, and so on. And apparently, not only does he form a quick Genki Dama, but then he puts it into his sword and into his aura, and he basically just stabs Zamasu. Oh, and apparently Zamasu, because of, Goku Black, at least from what I'm hearing, he's not immortal anymore. That purple thing that appeared on him, like half of his body being purple, that's basically, the Goku Black in him, or Goku's body, which is basically not immortal. So he became mortal after that happened, I guess. I'm not exactly sure what the explanation is, but, that's the best I can make of it. But anyway, Trunks then impaled him, and then somehow that was enough to defeat him. I mean, at a certain point, I literally wrote out a tweet saying that I don't even know what's happening anymore. I mean, if you go on my timeline on Twitter, then you'd be able to find that tweet. I mean, seriously, like, this is the most contrived episode I've ever seen. I mean, I know I keep saying that, but I mean, I'm being serious here. And it was so contrived that not only was I confused, but I was just, I literally couldn't describe what was happening. I mean, it was cool though, don't get me wrong, but, I guess Geekdom is right that there really isn't a canon anymore. They really just don't care. Now, this leads to another problem I have, which is the second half of this arc. I think the second half of this arc is the most contrived bit ever. You know, honestly, it kind of reminds me of the Cell arc, which is ironic because they both star Future Trunks. Well, the first one, actually, the Cell arc doesn't really star Future Trunks. It starts off with him, but, you know, it at least has a lot of Future Trunks in it. So I find it ironic that two arcs with Future Trunks in them are extremely contrived. And I'm talking about beyond just the, you know, timeline explaining and whatnot. You know, it's contrived even beyond that, you know. So, for instance, in the Cell arc, one thing that I found contrived was why is it that Cell is able to not only regenerate much better than Piccolo, but he's somehow able to gather a huge amount of strength, and he absorbs Goku's instant transmission. I mean, really? Can you not make him more OP? Yeah, so I see a lot of parallels here. And of course, I think this really all started when they showed Future Trunks being able to really fight Zamasu and Goku Black as if he was somehow around the same strength as Super Saiyan Blue Goku, which he shouldn't be. Then it goes on to show when Trunks, you know, transform into his new form, which, by the way, as far as I know, it doesn't have an official name yet. It's literally just Trunks' new form. I mean, you know they're not even trying when they don't even name the form. And I'm even starting to wonder if Toriyama's the one that came up with it or whether or not it was just Toei. Though, seeing Toriyama's track record, it wouldn't surprise me if Toriyama did come up with it. And he probably didn't even name it. He was like, why bother? You know, it's like, there's so much contradictions and stuff in Dragon Ball Super anyway that he probably just didn't even care anymore. Wow. And then after that was, of course, the stuff that we got in this recent episode. Well, I suppose I've gone on for long enough. So, what did you think of the fight? Did you think it was extremely contrived, if not the most contrived episode? Because I certainly do. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, and I will see